The summer vacation rich family and place full of reckless possibilities for having the best out of life, but not with a young virgin heart in mind, which makes you wish for your own simple life back. Open up on a lake and narration about being young and stupid. Music, nice feet touching grass. Nick Bloody Jonas just arrived for the vacation. His name is Doug, by the way. His friend Carson is excited and gives Doug a tour around and wants to get laid over and over for the whole week. We see Sheriff Big Jack pulling out the plug on his old friends because he is bored and takes the stage himself. Doug comes back to his holiday house and takes a look outside throughout the window, where notices a neighbor just arrived for vacation with a hot wife. Later on, as Doug is fixing his bike, he sees that lady having trouble with her high heels. They make eye contact and smile. Then his father calls him and introduces him to Elliot, the husband for that hot lady. He is a rich businessman and wants Doug to check on his boat since his parents have told Elliot that Doug knows something about boats and stuff. And he goes to check the boat, then notices Elliot's wife is taking shower. As he is watching and melting into himself, her husband shows up and asks if he checked her out, and Doug panics thinking of his wife, but Elliot is talking about the boat. Then he hires Doug to work on his boat since he is not around that much because of his business. At night, Doug is uneasy and can't sleep, then gets up and watches his neighbor's wife now that he is his boss as well, and notices that they have some conflict. Next day, he and Elliot talk about business and how rich Elliot is. Then he gets to work. After a while, he hears somebody is screaming and he rushes out to check, then finds Lena having trouble with a little spider. After executing the naughty spider, they talk and joke. At night, as Doug is coming home, he sees Lena waiting for him to help her to break her window. The key is missing or something, and he is like, hallelujah. Also, her husband is away for some couple of days. It starts raining, seems like everything is in his favor, maybe her favor. He cuts himself through the window and she cleans his wound. Then finally he dares to do something by the help of Lena. Although it's his first time, he does need some help. Next day he works again. At night nothing happens except some teasing and mind plays from Lena. At the morning she shows up on the boat as Doug is doing his job, and it happens again. Then the next day at the storage house or somewhere where her husband is around as well, they almost get caught. Afterward, Elliot nags about him not doing a good job on the boat and says he will be out of town in the next couple of hours. Then we see Doug and Lena in her room having fun, and he notices an incomplete tattoo on her ankle, and somebody sees them through the window. Then we see them sailing around and the engine burns out. As Elliot goes down to check, Lena complains about her husband harassment, and she is kind of seducing Doug, or maybe she is right, who knows. At night he gets a call from Lena, crying that her husband hurt her again. We see them outside talking and Doug is acting hero, but Lena wants him to calm down for now. The next day as Doug is working, Lena puts on some show and talks with Doug on the phone. Then we see them in a boathouse playing, and Doug wants her to divorce her husband. His mother is a lawyer, she can help, but Lena is reluctant and says it's not that easy. Later on, his friend asks him if there is a girl who he doesn't know, but Doug hides it. He comes home and encounters Lena in his house. He is mad why she shows up like that, but she is shaking and wants Doug to promise that he won't leave her. Then his mother interrupts and Lena leaves. At night he goes over to Lena and finds Elliot dead on the floor. Lena says she just defended herself, but she will go to jail and wants Doug to do something. But Doug wants her to tell somebody or his parents, and Lena doesn't let him and says there is no explanation for this. He goes to his friend's place at the bar and hears the news have spread everywhere, and comes back, sees Lena with his parents. Then he goes to her place thinking about some plans. Finally he decides to take the body to the boat with Elliot look and outfit. The next day Elliot's dead body is found by the police, and Doug is just woke up, checking outside, sees police everywhere, and notices the sheriff talking to Lena. Then a flashback shows what he did with Elliot's body. At the bar when Doug is serving costumers with beer and stuff, people are talking about $10 million that Lena will get after her husband is dead. Then we see a lady is coming to the town. She is an investigator. She talks to the sheriff and makes it clear that she is the boss now and claims his office. Sheriff Big Jack is cranky, but he gives it to her because she is the only one standing between Lena and $10 million. Later on, Lena is being investigated by Angie Alvarez. Lena makes up some stories about her husband being drunk all the time and abusive, but Angie the investigator asks some deeper questions which Lena can't explain and does a walkout. Sheriff's men have some information and one of them is suspected towards Doug, and he starts keeping eyes on him. While Angie is checking the house, found the broken window and blood. Later on, his friend questions Doug about him acting weird and says Sheriff Big Jack questioned him earlier about Doug and asks about that mysterious girl, maybe she is Lena, and Doug gets frustrated and says there's no mystery woman. He comes home to his room and hears Sheriff, and that investigator lady are questioning his parents about him. Then we see him answering questions to Angie about Elliot since he used to work for him, and Angie starts accusing him. Then his parents call it off by saying they are lawyers and know the law. She can't accuse their son just like that. Then he goes to the pub and hears people are talking about Lena and some stalker harassing her and killing her husband by the stalker. His friend Carson apologizes for the earlier, but Lena needs to talk to him. He goes to the place and asks her about the stalker story that she has made up, and Lena says they kept pressing and she had to give them something, but Doug is freaking out and decides to hide the phones they are using for contacting. Lena makes sure that Doug is still with her till the end. He comes back home and faces the investigator and sheriff who want to take DNA samples and fingerprints to match with the broken window stuff. The sheriff talks to his parents about the window and a stalker. Then we see him in the car with Angie. She asks about the night that Elliot disappeared and says she knows he is obsessed with Lena and the DNA test with the window blood will be positive, so he better tell everything or else Lena will get away with $10 million and he will be hanged. Then we see him confessing to his friend about the whole thing, and his friend suggests him to confess to the sheriff, but first he should have some evidence. Doug says he has the phone that they have been communicating with and a gardener who saw them together once. Then he goes to sheriff to confess, and as he is about to talk, his mother calls him and says whatever he is about to do, just hold it and don't say anything to anyone. Then he leaves and sheriff picks his glass for fingerprint, which later it comes out positive, but the investigator doesn't know yet. He comes home and gets questioned about an underpants which his mother has found it in his drawer. After some resistance, he says he saw it but not in his drawer. Apparently Lena has left it there. Then he starts to confess the whole story, but sheriff shows up at the door. Doug gets a message from his friend which says that gardener is dead. After talking to his parents, the sheriff comes upstairs to talk to Doug, but he is gone. The investigator caught him running and she starts to chase him. He breaks into the boathouse to get the phone he has hidden before, and Lena shows up right after him, and the phones are not there. Lena says she got them. Then as police and sheriff arrive, she tears her dress up and pulls Doug on top of herself, pretending he is forcing her. He is handcuffed and begging sheriff to let him go to bring evidence that he is innocent. Apparently sheriff knows what's up somehow, and he helps Doug, runs and says just for 20 minutes. He comes back and goes into her stuff and finds the phone. As Angie appears to get Lena for questions, he gives the phone to her and says the whole thing is in that phone. After checking the phone, Angie tells Lena she has to go with her and ties Doug in the house. However, as they are getting away, he notices the rest of the tattoo on Angie's ankle. Then everything flashes before his eyes. The investigator is Lena's lover, and they are getting away with the money and a murder. Then they come back and left the phone for Doug for some reason. We see Doug coming back home after a while. He gets out of prison due to reduced charges and narrating how Lena stole his youth. He says, however, it would have been much worse if she hadn't left the proof, and he is reluctant about the time and life he lost comparing with the time he had with Lena. He adds that if he had the chance to get it back, would he or he wouldn't?